We'll get into our Roto World player news. Of course, for all your Roto World player news, go to NBCSports.com. I was going to say average time to derail the show is a little different after a Commander's loss, but let's stay on track with the Lions.
A bad Commander's loss, and it's hard to differentiate.
Yeah.
I mean,
no, this was special.
This is a bad one.
It's not okay after the Eagles' losses. They were okay.
Yeah, they're okay. We showed up.
Giants' losses, both of them, not so good.
Right.
Not so good.
Or when we got blown out at home on national television against the Bears.
Yeah.
Question, though.
Yeah.
Do you think they were playing the long game to make sure the Giants don't get Drake May or Caleb Williams?
I mean, maybe.
Ron Rivera's not going to be there for long game.
Yeah, Ron Rivera maybe has a master plan.
You know what? I would love to think that was the case. I would love to think that's the case. But again, this is a man that gave Carson Wentz almost $30 million. Right. So, no. I don't think
didn't realize they'd been eliminated from the playoffs last year.
Yes, he didn't realize that either. Didn't realize they were playing for the playoffs.
Maybe not a master plan.
Doesn't know how the replay works. You know, he's just like, well, I was waiting for it to go in the jumbotron. Remember that one? They asked him why he didn't why he didn't challenge the fourth down, and he's like, oh, I didn't see it enough. I was waiting for them to show it on the replay. I'm like. So you're like any of us at home.
40 tablets on the sideline and just staring at the jumbotron.
Like every other NFL team has like a guy that's their entire job.
And a replay center with an Xbox controller. Yes, this is a real thing.
Yes, of course.
Yes.
Thank you.
So, all right. Anyways, speaking of draft noteworthy teams, the Chicago Bears, that's a tough loss at Detroit. A thrilling comeback win for the Lions. Listen to this with the Lions
But they
right
covered. The Bears covered.
They did.
That's the most important.
Never really in doubt.
Disrespectful
either.
line.
Yeah. A little
We
disrespectful.
talked about that on the pregame.
Yeah,
we like the Bears to cover. Yeah.
7.5, 8. Yep.
Jay, listen to this one for the Lions. This is their best start, 8-2, since 1962 right now.
That's quite good.
Sizzling Lions.
Is this if they go 13-4? That's the best season in Detroit Lions history, I think. Just looking through, like they haven't won a lot of games in their history. Scrolling back, 1961. No, they've never won 13 games ever. So it'll be the greatest season in Detroit Lions history if they go 13-4.
When they want to celebrate, when they want to bring back so you're bringing back Calvin Johnson and Barry Sanders. Wayne Fonts? Like who's next? Who's third?
Nate Burleson?
Maybe Nate Burleson? Golden Tate?
Yeah,
like Golden Tate?
And Dominic Sue?
Okay.
Yeah, we're definitely forgetting.
Amir Abdullah?
Nick Farrelly?
Yeah.
Amir Abdullah is definitely a sneaky one.
Yeah.
Man, Lions legends.
Kenny Golladay.
Oh, man.
John Kitna.
Yeah, they got Kenny Golladay paid. Oh, we did.
Scott Mitchell?
Yeah.
Did Matt Stafford bring back a little awkward?
Maybe.
A little awkward.
Stafford.
Yeah. He wears a Super Bowl ring, but
right. If he shows up with a Super Bowl ring. I'm just saying, it's just like it's an
odd ceremony.
Which
we love. We love how weird that is.
Listen, we are Lions fans here at the happy hour as well. Great game for my right. Once again, another great game for my ride or die. I'm on Ross St. Brown. But I think the most interesting thing here is, of course, the running backs. The question coming into the game was, can you start, is it Gibbs, is it Montgomery, is it both? And the answer is most certainly both. Guys, I mean, the fact is, as we said this on Fantasy Football pregame, I'm starting both guys. I have both as top 20 plays. I had Gibbs as a top 10 play. Montgomery as a top 20 play. That's how it ends up working out. Going into Monday Night Football, Gibbs is the third best running back in fantasy this week. Monty is running back 12. Jahmyr Gibbs, guys, has now had 20 or more fantasy points in 4 straight games, and I think this is impressive. In back-to-back games, he's gotten 67% of the goal line rushes. In the 2 games since Dave Montgomery returned, Jahmyr Gibbs is averaging over 15 touches a game. So the workload has certainly been there. It has not gone away since Dave Montgomery has come back.
Yeah, and I think another good thing tangentially for Gibbs and Montgomery is that Jared Goff was terrible in this game. Until he wasn't, and he won them the game down the end, but he threw 3 picks, and they were like bad Jared Goff picks. They weren't the tip ball variety, just wasn't seeing guys. It was kind of inexplicable. And I think that they want to protect Goff as much as possible, and they will run the ball as first option. So that bodes well. And also, they have a very easy schedule coming up too. So
we talked about this in the preseason around Amon-Ra, around Goff, around all the Lions, Gibbs and Montgomery both on the love list. So they play Green Bay at home on Thanksgiving. Obviously, the Lions always play on Thanksgiving. Then they're at New Orleans, at Chicago, home to Denver. Again, so other than the at Chicago game, we talked about how they're just playing nothing but dome games like the rest of the way. And so, again, 3 of their next 4 are in a dome. Obviously, the game in New Orleans, that'll be indoors as well. Here's my question for you, Jay.
Yeah.
Dave Montgomery has had at least 17 points in both games since returning. He's played 5 full games this year. He's scored in all 5. He's averaging over 20 fantasy points per game. But he's played under 50% of the snaps each of the last 2 weeks. Is he because he's playing less snaps than Gibbs, how touchdown dependent do you think Montgomery is? And does it matter because they score at such a high rate, and when they get close,
Right.
he's getting enough? Like, does it matter that is he one of the few touchdown-proof guys?
It's kind of analog to Jahmyr Williams last year. It's not quite the same thing. I think Montgomery gives you a little bit more, but the key to me is that Montgomery 2 targets in the passing game yesterday. Jahmyr Gibbs 6. And if the split in carries is only going to be Montgomery 12, Gibbs 8, it just makes more sense that they would skew more towards Jahmyr Gibbs as the season goes on because he's just better. He's better than Dave Montgomery. He's more explosive. Montgomery is still going to get his because their last 7 games, they're going to be favored in every single one of them except for at Dallas in week 17. So they're going to be running the ball. And if Dave Montgomery is touchdown dependent, great. He's going to score touchdowns.
But let me add this on. With how easy their schedule is, if they are playing with a lead like we think they will be, wouldn't they try to close games with Montgomery and keep Gibbs fresh for the first half of future games? It's a weird double edge. Like, there's 2 sides to this one.
guess
I
the
mean,
thing
and the
is-
fact
I think
is
I just love both
at the end
of
of
them
the
going
day,
forward.
At the end of the day, in a game in which they trailed, they had to make this crazy comeback. I mean, they wind up, Dave Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs each get 14 touches in this game. And towards the end of the game, Gibbs was out there. He gets a goal line carry. He gets down at the 1. Bears actually call a timeout to try to preserve clock. Then Montgomery comes in, scores against his former team, #revenge game. We love to see that. But I think had Chicago not called a timeout, it would have been Gibbs getting the goal line carry once again there. But I think you're right, Connor. Like, I think the underlying metrics in a different situation might concern you a little bit, but here I don't think they do.
No, and I think he'll be fine. And the other thing, too, with the Lions is, like, they're good. They're a very good team, but they're not the caliber of the Eagles or the Niners. They're only 7.5-point favorites against the Bears, who are going to be in the mix for the #1 pick. Like, these games, they're not going to blow teams out by 30 points most of the time. I think these games, they'll be leading, but the game will be close enough that I think you keep your best guys in. And I think both of these guys will be monsters down the stretch.
On the Bears side of things, a solid game from Justin Fields. A very efficient game from Justin Fields. He obviously gets it done with both his arm and his legs. He runs for over 100 yards. Top 10 finish right now for Justin Fields here, Barry. And they're just a fascinating team because as we get closer to the end of the season, Fields is playing well. He's healthy now, but this is a team that might pick twice in the top 5 of the draft.
Yeah, I mean, there's a kind of a weird real-life NFL dynamic, but for our purposes in terms of fantasy football, the question is, is Justin Fields going to be the QB1 you drafted him to be? He was bad at the beginning of the year. He had over 20 fantasy points in the 2 games prior to the injury. Then he goes down. T-Bag takes over for a while as well, but then he comes back in his first game out on the road at Detroit, a tough game against a divisional rival that's in first place. He puts up another 20-point game here as well as we enter Monday Night Football. He's the 8th best quarterback in fantasy. Over 100 rushing yards in this game as well. He looked the part, 16-23, 169 yards as well. Doesn't throw a pick in this one. Got DJ Moore involved as well. You saw a little bit of Kmet, not a ton, but they were able to run the ball effectively, not just Justin Fields, but also keep in mind, by the way, Deontay Foreman starts this game, gets the touchdown, leaves then early. It was pretty much Khalil Herbert after that. But the way they were moving the ball was through Fields' arm and legs.
Yep, an absolute dime touchdown pass to DJ Moore that we saw there. And the good thing with Fields, too, is that so here's a game in Week 15 at Cleveland. Okay, that's brutal. Cleveland have the best defense in the NFL. Outside of that, nothing really intimidating on the schedule. So I think that he is going to be more like the guy that we hoped that he would be coming into the season when he was, projected to be a QB 5-6, that type of range.
They're on the road at Minnesota this week as well, and then they've got a bye. So and then they're home to Detroit. So 2 of the next 3, right? Not easy matchups, but games in which they should be trailing and where Justin Fields should have to all right, let me put you on the back and do this. So yeah, I mean, clearly a QB1 the rest of the way.
And while if you have
Except the Cleveland
Fields,
game.
Yes.
his return is great news, but it's even better news if you have DJ Moore. DJ Moore's just a totally different player when Justin Fields is starting, Matthew.
The last 4 full games that DJ Moore and Justin Fields have played, he scored. DJ Moore has scored. Something he never did in Carolina. I forget who the head coach was at Carolina for much of DJ Moore's career there. It escapes me. But for whatever reason, they just never seem to get a lot out of DJ Moore in terms of end zone usage, red zone usage as well. But he's been scoring touchdowns at a high rate here in Chicago, especially when he's got Justin Fields under center. He had a 40% target share in Week 11. It's his highest target share in a game. This is good.
Yeah.
It's very good for DJ Moore, a wide receiver 2 rest of the way.
Last 3 games that DJ Moore has played with a full Justin Fields, taking out the Minnesota game where Fields got hurt. 131 receiving yards, 230 receiving yards, 96, and he scored 5 touchdowns in those 3 games.
It's unbelievable. That's, by the way, those 5, I'm almost positive those 5 touchdowns are more than he ever scored in an entire season in Carolina.
Yep, I think that's
I would
correct.
wager that.
Yeah. Again, I forget who the coach was. It's someone, hey, Blake, look up for me. I know there was a guy that was coach for a long time in Carolina that had DJ Moore on his team. It escapes me. It escapes me. We can move on while Blake looks that up. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotoWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest RotoWorld fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.